Dynamic resume strategies session. This session was designed for all professionals, regardless of where you are in your career. So if you're just starting out, you're a student, and you're just trying to take a stab at a resume for the first time, or if you're a little bit more progressed in your career and you're looking for maybe some tips and tricks to make your resume more effective, I think there's going to be something for everyone in this session. Just a warning for everyone. I am known for a lot of transitions and animations, so this is something that I always do. So when it comes to this agenda, we're going to start with my introduction, share a little bit about myself and what I've been done when it comes to resume building. And then we're going to discuss top resume mistakes. And so these are mistakes that we see time and time again. And I can guarantee that even within our group, there's going to be something that we have all kind of been a victim for. Next, we're going to talk about dynamic resume strategies, a few tips and tricks, ways that we can make our resume optimized for the role we're looking for. And then finally, and I think the most exciting thing is we're going to do a live resume walkthrough. And so we're going to go through each section of the resume. And during this time, we're going to allow for questions and really just break this apart. And so let's start with the introduction. So a little bit about myself. And I'll start with my professional background. I'm an MBA graduate from Mays Business School, Texas A&M University. I currently work as a project manager at Goldman Sachs. So I've been at Goldman Sachs for 2.5 years, but I have about 12 years of experience in project management and financial operations. And a fun fact about me, I'm actually a certified career peer educator at Texas A&M University. What that means is I actually got a certification just for career guidance and resume building. So that's something that I really enjoyed. And while I was a student, I did this part-time where I would just help other fellow students in trying to optimize their resume. So spent a lot of hours in this space, and just grateful for the opportunity to kind of give some of that insights back to the community. When it comes to my involvement in the Jain community, as Manan had mentioned, I've been heavily involved with Young Jain Professionals, YJP. I started as a public relations director in 2018, so I was kind of the social media guy. So I was helping with increasing the reach of our audience and trying to really just build that foundation and our online presence. And I was fortunate to be the YGP co-chair in 2019, and currently act as an advisor for YGP, where I took more of a passive role and able to help wherever I can. In the Jaina space, I'm also a committee chair of the Himsik Eco-Vegan Committee as well. And so that is something that I do when it comes to just my involvement with the Jain community. And, of course, this is the one time I get to show this little certificate, which is that certified career educator. Don't think I've ever shown this before, but really just shows that I'm here to help all of you when it comes to resume building. So let's talk about fundamentals of resume building. So when we talk about top resume mistakes, I think the number one mistake that we see on resumes is spelling and grammar errors. And so of course, when it comes to spelling grammar errors, that's the biggest red flag that you can see in a candidate's resume. That means that they didn't take time to thoroughly check their resume. So, of course, run a spell check through it. And then, try to avoid a few common things. First is do not use personal pronouns. So if you're using I did this, I did that, I, we, that's a no-no for sure. You always want to speak in third person past tense. So you perform this, you manage this. And then, one thing that a lot of people know is don't add a punctuation at the end of bullets because it's not a complete sentence. And so that's something that, I'm sure a lot of us do. So just remove the bullet at the end. These kind of seem like smaller, granular mistakes, but I can tell you if the person that's reviewing it is as thorough as, some of us are, those things could mark off points from your candidacy. So definitely something to keep an eye on. The next biggest mistake we see on resumes is inconsistent formatting. And so, a rule of thumb is to avoid excessive use of bolding, underlining, and italics. While it may seem good to bold, random words, try to emphasize that I did this, I did that. It actually creates a lot of noise for the reviewer. So, really be just a little bit cautious when you use formatting updates. Also, when it comes to dates, you want to use month and year. So not just year, you want to do month. And the way I've learned it, it was, just 3-letter month and then the 4-digit year. So make it very clear that this is where I worked from, in any position from this time to this time. Finally, you want to balance the white space on your resume. And so you want to ensure that your margins are 0.05. So it's not too, wide or too narrow. If you start seeing a lot of white space, so for example, if you're a student, you're a little bit new, there are some techniques you can do to kind of fill the paper up. So you can do like line spacing, increase the font, and then vice versa. If you have too much stuff on your resume and you're trying to like fill in space, you can adjust the margins, decrease the font a little bit. In addition to line spacing, kind of update that as well. The regular rule of thumb when it comes to the length of a resume uh, is 1 page. And so there are exceptions to this. If you're in medicine, if you're a researcher, if you're in certain fields, you may want to have 2 pages if you want to highlight your publications, if you have certain articles you've written. But or if there's like if you're in STEM, there are chances that a 2 page resume will be applicable. But the general rule of thumb is a 1 page resume. And they say that even CEOs of large companies are able to have resumes in 1 page. So if they can do it, we can do it as well. And so really, it's just if you have too much information, I think that's the point where you want to see where you can trim the information. Maybe there's older positions that may not be relevant. There may be certain items on your resume that's irrelevant to the role you're looking for. And so that's, I think, places you can cut down. Another top resume mistake is using passive language. And so this is especially true for people that are new in their careers. If you're a student, you're going to say, I was involved in, I was, I'm, involved in, and instead of using involved in, you want to use active language, such as I performed, I managed, I executed. And so even just changing that word around sounds so much better. So anything that you have on your resume could be rewritten in a way where it's active language, something that you committed, rather than passive language. Also, it's really important to quantify your results. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into this section. But the way to quantify results, you can use percentages, you can use dollar signs, you can use time reduced. There's a lot of way to quantify results. And we'll discuss a little bit more on how you can get those numbers as well. Finally, non-relevant experience. And I'm definitely guilty of this. It's important to remove any irrelevant experience. So, maybe you did something that, you're really proud of, but it's not really relevant to the role. It doesn't improve your chances of that candidacy. And for roles like that, you want to just remove it. So you just want to, just take it to the heart, remove it. More isn't always better. I think the goal of a resume is to really build your narrative for that candidacy. So more isn't always better. And then also be cautious when using industry-specific acronyms. For example, if you're in healthcare and you're applying for a non-healthcare position, you don't want to use certain acronyms that may not really be relevant to the interviewer. So keep that in mind. And if you are going to use acronyms, just the rule of thumb is to write the full word first and then use the acronyms going forward. So it shouldn't be confusing to the person that is scanning your resume. And then finally, your most recent experience should be larger. So if you have 3 roles, for example, your most latest role should have the most experience in it, the most bullet points. And as you go further down into your career, the previous experiences should decrease, gradually as you go further back, because the interviews want to know what did you most recently accomplish. So that is really just top resume mistakes. A few strategies that I think can help anyone. Every line on the resume should build your narrative. So when we talk about your narrative, that is your story. What is the story you're trying to present to the person reading it? If you are, for example, pivoting in your career, and we'll talk more about this. I think this is will apply to a lot of people. If you're, for example, in tech and you want to go into business and do that pivot, the interviewer is going to want to know, why did you go into business and what experience do you have that relates to it? And so there are ways to build that narrative, even if you have non-relevant experience to that role. For example, for me, I was in a few roles that was not finance related, and my goal was to make a pivot into finance. And so what I did is I went through each of my line items from past roles and tried to word it in a way that it relates to something that a finance person would care about. So it could be as little as just enhance the EBITDA or the financial metrics through my operational work, for example. So I wasn't necessarily in finance, but I worded it in a way where it showed that I had exposure to finance. So there's a few ways to reword things, and it really is function specific for what you're trying to do. This another dynamic resume strategy, and I think this will apply to students especially, Most universities have publicly available university resume templates. And so just looking at Texas A&M University, where, who I'm an alumni of, I just searched Mays Business School resumes, and it clearly showed, multiple resumes that they've, standardized for all master's and MBA students. And so even if you're in an undergrad and you're not a master's student, I think it could definitely give you an edge to um, try to replicate your resume based off a master's student, especially for the role you're looking for. I think these resumes are very clearly outlined and structured, and of course you can tailor it to how it works for you. So that would be another tip to keep in mind. Another trick that a lot of us do is maintaining multiple resume variations. So if, for example, you're looking, you may be not fixed on one particular function or role. It doesn't hurt to have multiple resumes that tailor to different roles. And just as an example here, I have 3 different resumes that I keep on hand right now. One resume does not have an objective section. So this is more of a generic resume. I can send it to anyone. I have another variation, which is specifically for a senior project manager role. So that's like the role that would be more applicable to my experience. And I have an objective listed here. So if I'm applying to roles like that, I have a second variation. And then the third variation I have, I'm calling it a autofill resume. But oftentimes when you're applying to jobs, some of the companies that use like older portals, they'll ask you to upload your resume in a Word document, and it'll like parse the data into the application. So anyone that's in the job market right now understands how frustrating that can be. And especially if it doesn't parse correctly, if you have positions that aren't parsing into the application itself. And so what I actually did is I created a easier formatting resume. So this one is 2 pages. And whenever it asks me to parse a resume, I upload this particular document. And usually it parses almost perfectly just because of the way I formatted it. So just a neat trick to keep in mind. Finally, leveraging AI tools to evaluate and enhance your resume. So we're in a very exciting time, of course, where we have a lot of availability of AI tools to make things better and faster. And there's different platforms where you can actually upload your resume and scan your resume for what positions you're applying for. And then you can also use ChatGPT. And I'll go further into that, in like our QA, but you could create a custom GPT just for your job search. You can upload your resume as a Word document to ChatGPT, say, I'm applying for this position. What changes can I make to my resume to apply for it? Or you can ask ChatGPT, is my resume an ideal candidate for this position, right? And so really like exciting and creative ways to use AI to enhance your resume. And so that was a lot of talking. And so this will be a little bit more of an interactive part. This will be the live resume walkthrough. And so what I've done is I've taken my own resume. And of course, this is always an evolving document. So nothing is perfect. We're going to continue to make updates. But in this resume, I'm going to go through each section and then share a few key highlights and then also open up questions. So at this time, if there's any questions that come to mind, feel free to write it. And Manan will assist with kind of addressing those questions. So let's start at the top. The header and then the objective. So when we look at the resume header, of course, you want to have your city, your phone number, and your email. This, I think, is kind of common knowledge, but definitely if you're missing any of those things on your resume right now, add that on there. I've also added a open to relocation. Of course, local candidates will always have kind of a leg up for the role they're applying to. It's just easier for companies to bring people in for interviews, but definitely include that you're open to relocation so that there's no confusion there that you're willing to move for this position. A big question that people ask, should your resume have an objective section? So the way I learned or I was taught about the objective section is the objective section is it carries a bit of a risk. If your objective section isn't effective, if it doesn't add any value to your resume, or if it's badly worded, it can actually go against you. However, if you have a objective section which adds information that the interviewer can't see from the rest of your resume, then it may be worth having. And just a few key, I think definitely reasons to have an objective section. If you're seeking a job that is not a great match based on your past experiences, so if you're pivoting into another role, pivoting to another career, objective section can definitely help you there. If you're seeking an internship, so if you're a student, you're looking for an internship, objective section can definitely help you there. And then if you're seeking a specialized or targeted industry, I think those would be three case scenarios where an objective section could help. But it's not always a case where you need objective section. And sometimes you can actually just remove that section to have more space for your resume experience as well. So that would be kind of the question of that. And I do want to take a pause there. If there's any questions in regards to that, looking here. Okay, perfect. So let's continue then. And so the next big question you're going to have is what goes up? Would it be your experience section or your education section, right? What goes higher up on the list? And so the answer to this is, really nuanced. It really depends on where you are in your career and what adds more value. And so if you're, for example, a student right now and you don't have much work experience, you're going to want to put your education section higher on the list. If you're a recent graduate, you might want to put education higher on your list, on the order. However, if you've had a lot of experience and that's kind of your selling point, you might want to put your experience higher on the list. And I think a great example for me was when I had graduated from an MBA program. That was my biggest selling point, is that I have an MBA and I have a lot of formal education. So I had that listed higher on my experience. However, as I got deeper into my career, and most recently working at Goldman Sachs, I essentially reversed it and I put the Goldman Sachs. I think that is what is selling me more for the role I'm looking for now. So really it depends would be the answer to that. And so this is probably the trickiest part of every resume, is the actual professional experience. So let's take a few minutes to try to dissect this, see what intakes we can get out of this. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in the chat and we can kind of go through that. The first thing you want to keep in mind is using action verbs. And so what I did is I've kind of just filtered out, and you'll see in this resume, I'm using words like directed, resolved, executed, implemented, delivered, chaired. There are hundreds of action verbs that you can use to showcase the work you've done. They say not to repeat action verbs. So I think manage is one of the most common verbs that we all use. We all manage something, right? So you may want to, instead of manage, you can use, delivered or implemented, depending on, the verb. And so don't use the same action verb twice, and then try to rotate it. And every line item should begin with an action verb. It should always be in past tense. And so it's not managing, it's not manage, it's managed with the ed, right? And then do not repeat verbs. And I just pulled a list of action verbs here. So based on the kind of verb you're looking for, if it's achievement, accelerated, accomplished, arranged, addressed. So these are all fantastic words that really kind of make the accomplishment you did more effective. And of course, this is another place where you can ask ChatGPT, give me 20 synonyms for this word, or make this sound better. And that's where I think AI provides a great edge for resumes that use that. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you quantify everything. So quantify. So this is really hard for people to do. So no matter where you're in a career, trying to figure out, so I did this, how do I get a number out of it? And so the way you can quantify results, you can do it through percentage increase, which I think is one of the easier ways to do it. You can use dollar impact. This could be if you helped with increasing the P&L, the profit of a company. So this program helped add this much money towards, whatever you did. Or it could be money saved as well. So, I implemented this tool, which saved the money this much money. So there's kind of two ways to do dollar signs, and then time savings as well. So if you don't have the dollar, you don't have the percent, you can say that on average, this tool that I implemented saved the company, 400 hours annually. You can maybe even do, how many hours a day you're saving. You can multiply that by weeks and then do that by years. And that would be a way, and usually it's done by annual. So you can say annual savings of this or annual profit of this. And then I think a good rule of thumb is to try to have at least one quantifiable number on each line item. So this is almost impossible to do. But if you are able to accomplish this, I think it will definitely add a lot to your resume. And so if you can see in this example, every line I have some number. I try to make it numbers that are very relevant to the actual result of my accomplishment. But sometimes it could be I manage 5 programs, right? So I put the 5 there. My work impacted this many line items, 6,046, right? So just numbers wherever you can. And then if you don't have enough numbers, then I think there's a great opportunity there to add more quantify. So definitely don't underestimate numbers. It really just showcases like the results of your efforts of what you do. And then the third, I think, really important thing is to make sure that you're not just telling the interviewer what you did, right? You're also trying to tell the interviewer what was the result of that action. So it's not so essentially not just what you did, but the results of that action. And really each line item should answer the question, so what? So, okay, you manage this program. That's wonderful. That shows you have a lot of responsibility. But what did you accomplish with that? And so looking at this particular example, and there's a lot of, I guess, technical stuff on there, but I resolved this many reporting discrepancies, right, for this particular program. And what it is, I added a semicolon. This work achieved this percent issue remediation, and I elevated the project health status in 3 months. So I'm showing what did I do, and then I'm showing what was the results of that. And if I actually just take a step back, you can look at any of these line items, and it is very similar. It is, for example, delivered these, these structure changes within these number of systems, semicolon, implemented an enhanced process ownership model. So this is what I did, and this is what like resulted of it. And actually, as I speak that, I think there's actually some opportunity there as well. But received global recognition. I elevated project health status, achieved full compliance within budget on time. So I think just things to keep in track in the actual language. So okay, so that was experience, and let me just see if there's any questions. Of course, feel free to jump in and ask questions. And then Manan, if you want to jump in as well.
Sure. So, Sunny, there are 2 questions from the chat. Sparsh, I think he liked your resume, and I'm sure a lot of us did. So his question was, would you be willing to share your resume for them to use as an example, So I'll let you take that and see if you would be comfortable. If not, that's completely fine too.
Absolutely, 100%. I would love to share this with everyone. I would even go a step further. Feel free to use this format. Like, take my resume, edit it as it makes sense for you. The goal of this session is to add value to your particular career goals. Like, we want to help you reach those goals. And so whatever I can do to help you, definitely do it. This particular format of this resume is modeled off the Mays Business School resume template. If you look at other schools, there may be a little differences here and there, but for the most part, it's going to look very simple. Yeah, and so I'll stop there. So
another question from Apurva Bhai is, how does ATS computer system work to get shortlisted? And what is your opinion about using ChatGPT?
Yeah, absolutely. So ChatGPT, I'm definitely a proponent of. I think it's a great tool. And just to go deeper into this, so when we talk about ATS, essentially the way to look at this, so if you're in tech, think of your resume as an SEO almost, right? Like the keywords that you put into your resume is going to be scanned through automated systems, and it's going to be the system will be able to say that, yeah, this guy may be a good candidate or this person may not be a good candidate. So you want to ensure that you're using the right keywords on your resume, that is formatted in a certain way, that you don't have spelling mistakes, that it is within one page. So certain like things that you can do to make sure that that your resume is reaching the right people. So a great way to accomplish that, I think, is what I've been doing recently is uploading my resume into ChatGPT. There's also a few other platforms like VMock, which a lot of people may know, especially students, where you upload it and it'll tell you that this resume is good for this position. So for example, if I'm aiming for a project manager role, I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how optimized is my resume for a project manager role? And which line items here are not, adding to that, that I guess that candidacy for that role. And ChatGPT will tell you that this role, while it sounds good, has nothing to do with project management. You may want to reword it. And so I think that all it relates to ATS getting your resume in the right eyes.
One question, Sunny, I have is I know your resume is completely black and white.
Yeah.
And in today's day and age, the computers are smart enough to extract text no matter what the color might be.
Yeah.
So for someone who's not part of maybe architecture or unique graphics design, for someone who wants to be a project manager or is an engineer or wants to join an engineering company, would you still recommend that the resume be purely in black and white?
That's a good question. So I remember when I first created my first resume, it was actually a colorful resume. I thought I was unique. I was gonna make it very cool, and I was quickly penalized, I guess, from my peers that you cannot have any color on your resume. There are a few particular circumstances where color may be applicable. I think if you're a designer, if you're in UI UX, or if you're a graphic designer or you're an artist, right? That I think those would be the only circumstances where you would want to add color. However, this is probably the one instance where you don't want to stand out. So you don't want a resume that stands out in a negative way. Black and white, just old-fashioned classic, make it as I wouldn't include a photo on this resume, nothing outside of what this is. So just black and white. Even this blue right here, I would just remove it, to be honest. Just make it black and white. That would be the safest bet, especially if you're going into like certain industries, like in banking, in finance, like they don't want to see color. And that'd be my answer to that.
Got it. And when I've interviewed people for my company, I've noticed some of them put their full address. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. I have seen that. I don't think it goes against you. So I think it's fine. I think it's more of a preference thing. I think really they want to see what city you're in, right? Like when someone first looks at your resume, they're gonna look at the city. When you actually like fill out an application, they're gonna ask for that information anyway. More of a HR thing. They want to have your address, your full contacts. But for a resume, you can do either or. You can do your address or you can keep city. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, perfect. To the question that Apurva had asked, somebody has asked which version of Chat GPT would help us in editing resume, if you have a preference of the version that you would recommend for people.
Absolutely. So I will admit I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to tech and AI. So I do have ChatGPT Premium, which is I think ChatGPT 40. The reason I have that, I think the main I guess benefit of that versus the other ChatGPT models is you could upload the resume as a document. And actually, I think you could do that with others, but you could create a custom GPT. And so I'll just explain what that means. So when you use ChatGPT right now, which I'm sure everyone has experience with, you're going to type in the first few, you're going to prompt the ChatGPT that, hi, I'm Sunny Jain. This is what I want from you. Here's my background. You're going to write that, right? With a custom GPT, what you can actually do is you can preload all those instructions ahead of time. So you don't have to like repeat yourself that this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for. And then you can tell the GPT what you want it to do. So I actually have a career search GPT, custom GPT just for my career search. And it knows everything about me. It has my resume pre-uploaded. It knows what roles I'm looking for. And it knows what roles I'm not looking for. And then I can just ask it anything that, hey, I need help creating a cover letter. Help me with this. Or, hey, what company should I apply to? Yeah, I can just like ask simple questions, and because the instructions are already pre-written, it'll just like spit it out. And of course, with the newer model, you're going to get more, I guess, relevant results as well because it's the newer model.
Got it. Okay. One more question from Susmita is, what is the best way to connect with you for one-to-one career advice?
Absolutely. And no, thanks for asking that. Yeah, I have my contact information at the end of this presentation, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can definitely connect. So yeah, I think for everyone in this chat, whether there's anything that I can give you, or if you just want to connect, I think it'd be a great opportunity to connect with like-minded Jains in our community. And if we have time, we can definitely discuss like networking as well. But if not, I think just connect with me on LinkedIn. I would be happy to help out wherever I can.
Before Sunny, we move into the other part of your resume, one other question is going back to the personal statement or the professional summary. Oftentimes, companies have another file that you can upload, which is essentially your personal statement, right? I know it's not related to the resume, but what is your take on the importance and helping a candidate stand out from the others?
Right, absolutely. So in addition to personal statements, sometimes they'll ask for cover letters, they'll ask for examples of essays, written work you've done. And so there's like kind of like upload relevant information. My understanding, and definitely, get other feedback as well. My understanding is you're gonna want to upload just enough where it adds value. So you don't want to like overload the person with all your information. If I like send like 3 essays I did back in college, like while I love the essays, it may not be relevant to my role. It may not add value to my candidacy, right? So be, I guess, cautious is what I would say. If you have a cover letter, which would be great, but if it's not a well-written cover letter, if it's not relevant to your role and it's kind of a generic one, it may actually not help you at all. Like if someone actually read it, they could probably tell that this wasn't written for my company or my position. This is a generic ChatGPT cover letter, right? So just think about how if it adds value or not. One like trick that I've used, which may help others, is I actually have a folder on my desktop which has relevant documents. So I have and I named it quick application, right? So if I'm applying to a multiple jobs, and someone asks for my resume, I have it in this folder. If someone asks for a cover letter, I'll have it in this folder. I have like my transcript, my master's degree transcript, my undergrad transcript. I'll have a few essays in there. And so if I ever need to pull like information like certificates, I can just pull it from this particular folder. So I think it's just a great trick. Just have it on your desktop if you're actively applying, and then you just pull from it, and then you can make a decision on what you want to add and not add to the application.
Understood. Hero has a question saying, she's saying for roles like analysts, the candidate needs to put the projects, in the resume. So in what should be the sequence in which, they put those projects in their resume?
That's a good question. And actually, we will discuss this further in this presentation, but there's essentially a section when you, after professional, so after objective, experience, education, you kind of have like a catch-all section, right? So what I have here is activities, certification, skills, kind of like threw everything in there, you could have community service, but if you're in a space where it makes sense to have a section that will tailor towards like that role, such as projects, then that section could be a great opportunity to add that. And so if I was in your shoes, I would look at putting experience and then projects. Possibly, if you're a student, then maybe you want to do education and then project and then experience. So it depends on what has more value. So if you have like less work experience, put projects higher. If you're a student, you can actually put projects under education as well, and then just like go do full deep dive on those projects as well. So you can take like half the room with just projects. And so that's a great idea. Like when I was an MBA student, I had a section called internships because I had a lot of work experience, but my MBA internship had something that the work experience didn't. And so I wanted to create a separate section. So I think you have a little bit of flexibility on how you want to like order that on your resume.
Let's go ahead and carry on, Sunny.
Okay, cool, absolutely. And we're not too much further in. Of course, education. So my education used to be a little bit longer. I made it a little bit shorter as I try to make space on my resume. But when it comes to education, you want to supplement your education section with your GPA, only if it adds value, by the way. So if it's a good GPA, add it. If it's a bad GPA, don't add it. Not worth adding a bad GPA on your resume because the goal is to get through the door, right? The first interview. You can add activities, awards, case competitions, relevant coursework. A pretty neat trick here is if you're a student or if you're if you're a student and you're trying to aim for a particular role, you can use this section to optimize your resume for that role. So for example, before I had much finance experience, I added my relevant coursework and I put a bunch of finance courses I took, applied investment analysis, energy finance, financial accounting. And I stuck all these courses in here, not to show that I did these courses, but partially just for my resume to be optimized for a finance role, because that's what they're going to be scanning. So I think there's a great opportunity here. You want to show your leadership, awards, certificates. And as you go deeper into your career, you can actually just decrease this the way I did, and just have like your master's and your bachelor's, really. Finally, and I'm doing like the whole zoom in, zoom out thing, of course. The final section I have here is the catch-all. So I kind of alluded to it, but really this could be a number of different things. Examples of sections you can use is activities. You can do certifications, community service. So, which I think one thing that I'm missing in my resume is a level of community service, which I used to have, but I think I removed it as I tried to optimize my resume. Honors, if you have publications, so if you're in STEM, if you're in science or in medicine, you may want to include a section just for publications or research. And then if you're in tech, you may want to emphasize the skills that you have, right? Like the different coding languages. And you can have a section just for that, because I think that's going to be something that they're going to want to look at. Also an opportunity to add industry specific and job specific keywords. And so that was a lot there. I'm going to, just kind of conclude on my side with my contact information. Just want to, thank all of you for listening in. I want to thank YJP for the opportunity to present and speak to all of you. And, I just want to open it up for any other questions that we have. And Manan, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. Great presentation. I like the animations, the way you zoomed in and zoomed out to focus on different points and highlighting the numbers. And it was quite informative. So thanks a bunch. We do have another question. And if other people have questions and they would rather ask the question directly to Sunny, let me know and I can unmute you. But for now, I have a question from Jimmy. He is asking, does it make a difference if the skills are mentioned up top right after a professional summary versus at the bottom of the page?
That's a good question. So when you say skills, what I would say, and let me just kind of go back here, I think it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So if these are skills that you think are going to be relevant to your role, so if you're in tech and you're applying for a software developer role, you're going to want to put your skills higher up on your resume for sure. You don't want it as the last sentence. Like for me, it's the very last line item. You're probably not going to want to do that. You're going to want to try to push that as high as you can. Way you can do that is if you have an objective section, stick it in there that, I'm a software developer with this many years of experience. If that helps you, if it doesn't help you, don't include experience. Leading this many projects, proficient in this language, this language, this language. You can do that at the very top. Or you can add it early on as like an earlier bullet in your work experience, but push it upward for sure. As a project manager, I think the leadership attributes are usually more relevant than technical skills. And so, while I have experience in a lot of different things, it's probably not the most important thing for my particular role. So I have it lower at the bottom. And anything that I want to show is going to be my work experience.
Thanks, Sunny. When we did send out the invite for this session, we did mention that 10 people to sign up would get feedback via email. So I'm about to put that link on the chat. First 10 people to sign up will get feedback via email. We will try to give feedback to everyone, but we are running short on resources and time. So definitely do fill out the form and upload your resume, and we will in a few weeks get back to you with specific feedback to your resume. So if we don't have any more questions before we wrap up, I would like to say that we have a few more YJP events coming up. On the 29th of this month, we will have an event for production. And on the 21st of September, we will have an online chess tournament with exciting prize money. So keep an eye out to register for those. And once again, Sunny, thank you so much for being here today with us and sharing your, you said you've gotten a certificate from A&M to help us all out, which is quite exciting. So thanks for taking the time out and sharing some feedback. I'm just looking at the chat to see if we have more questions. Yeah, so we will be sharing the recording of this presentation. So keep an eye out on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to find that recording link, and this will be posted on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, a bunch of people are sharing that they were quite thankful for the session. Deepsha is saying, I'm from Canada doing my bachelor's in computer science, looking for an internship for summer 2025, but struggling to get big tech companies to call back in the US. Any tips, Sunny?
Oh, okay. So this is more job search related. It is a tricky business. I'll say a few things. I would leverage our community. So we have a large YGP community, and there's a lot of people that are in tech. And one thing that anyone can do to help you in securing an interview or getting that position is through a job referral. And so anyone that works at a larger company, they usually have access to an internal portal where they can just click two buttons and send a referral link with your candidacy, and it will send you like a separate application. So I know for sure Goldman Sachs does this. I know Amazon does this. I'm sure quite a bit of other companies do this as well. So what do you build connections and you network with people, you can just ask them that, hey, I saw this position, it looks amazing. Before I apply, I wanted to ask if you would be able to refer me. Simple as that. The worst thing that they can do is not respond, and then the best thing they can do is help you. And usually when you and this is kind of going more into networking, but the goal is to find commonality with that person. So if you're both Jane, for example, right, that's a common thing right there. You can say, hi Ananya, I see that you work here. I'm part of the Jain community, Jain Society of Houston, and I would love to apply for this role. Ananya, would you be able to help me? And I'm sure Ananya will smile just seeing that message, and he'll help you, right? And so, push through it. Try to use every avenue. Use LinkedIn to apply. Use the external companies to apply. Create your profiles for like major companies early on, and then finally, I would say don't lose hope. It's really important that you keep your spirit high. It could be a very tough space that we're in, and it can be very easy to be discouraged. So no matter what happens, just like make sure you uplift yourself, make sure you take care of yourself, and keep pushing through. So I think that's advice I'd give for the job search.
Thanks, Sunny. Great answer. If I may add to that, Deep, right now, sometimes the job market is great, sometimes it's not. And right now, unfortunately, the job market is not great. So do not feel disheartened. And to add to Sunny's point, whenever it's for everyone, rather, whenever we reach out to people for help, one shouldn't just reach out and say, hey, can you refer me to this position? Because to them, you are a stranger and they haven't, they do not have any background on you and they do not know you. So try and connect to them first to learn about the role and network, and then ask them, hey, this is my past experience. Do you think it would be a good fit? And would you mind referring me for this position? So be mindful when you reach out to people. Otherwise, they might get, turned off, and they might be like, I don't even know this person, and why are they being so direct to me? Sunny, if you feel differently or if you feel the same way, please chime in.
No, absolutely. I think you covered it. I absolutely agree with I think everything you said.
We have more questions coming in. Also, I would like to say that we do plan to have a session similar to this, but more so on LinkedIn and how to optimize your LinkedIn. And the one other session is going to be on interview prep. Resume is one small part of it that is to, like get your foot in the door. But once the door opens for you and it's time for you to get interviewed by the recruiter and the hiring manager and the team members, it's very important to be ready for different kinds of questions depending on the roles. So we will in the future also be having a session on that. So keep an eye out. I'm just trying to go through the chat again. We do have more questions. And in continuation to what I was saying about the events that we will be having, in 2025, we will be having a Jaina convention, and YJP will be hosting their own sessions during those times. So please, if you do sign up for the Jaina session, please remember us and join the YJP sessions, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. When you come for the full 2 or 3 day session, it's going to be more insightful, it's going to be more impactful, and more importantly, you'll get to meet young gen professionals in person. So the networking and connections that you build during that time will, might help you immediately or might help you in the long run. So do remember to sign up for, go ahead, Shikha.
Yeah, so when you're signing up for Jaina, it's okay even if you already signed up for Jaina as a regular participant. When you go back in and log in and see your dashboard, you can add YJP as an add-on. And what that does is then when you get your badge, you will get a special color designation on your badge that will allow you to attend all of the YJP sessions. Also, Sunny and Manan, if you don't mind, I know that Sunny, you were addressing something someone was asking a little like way earlier. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself earlier, but I think the main thing there is, yes, the types of roles, but also someone's level of experience. So it seems like you definitely have several years of experience in different companies or in varying roles where you were able to accomplish all of these projects and able to designate these and highlight them at the top. For applicants who may be entry level or just entering into the workforce or may not have as much experience, then yeah, probably the skills and maybe their education, the coursework that they took, anything that they find relevant that they want to profile at the top. It's always like, right? What would you say? Like it's kind of it's not a cookie cutter approach, or it's a cookie cutter approach. I don't know how to say that. Any thoughts you have for that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're a student or if you're someone with not much experience, and I think it's a meme, right? That role asks for 15 years of experience, and it's an entry level role, right? How do you even get in? But I think, ultimately your goal is to build your case, and if you do that through your projects, your skills, if you're a student, I think it's so important that you take advantage of internships. So if you're a college student right now, right, and you have 4 internships for each summer, that is all stuff that you can include on your resume, and you could actually apply to a position not looking like an entry level. Like there's interns that apply for like mid-level positions because they've had enough internship experience. They're able to kind of change the narrative of their resume where they look at like, wow, this person's done a lot. And so I think projects and internships would be the way I would go about it. And it'll look like a packed resume with a lot of stuff, but you just have to be a little creative when it comes to that.
Perfect. A couple of people were asking me if I can share YJP contact details. So YJP as such does not have, one number. But for now, I am putting my number on the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will try and connect you with people who belong to your city or your region. And I will, try my best to connect you with different people if I personally cannot help you. Sunny, we do have one more question. It's from Devam. He's saying that he's a graduate student and in search of job opportunities. Most of the time, he has heard that he should reach out to recruiters or and organization members with a cold email. Can you please provide more details and explanation on how to work with cold emails?
Yes. Okay. So this is tricky. The way I learned, or like what I was taught about, just networking and just trying to get leads during my MBA program, this was a big part, right? The way you look at it is there's 3 types of people. There's people that will help you out no matter what. And it's almost a personality type, right? So think of 30% of people, if you message them, they'll just help you out. They just want to help people out. They're happy to help if they have time to do so. There's gonna be 30% of people that will not respond at all. They're gonna kind of be ghost, right? And then there's gonna be 30% of people that may be rude, may not be nice, and that's okay, right? You're expecting that. And so the more people you connect with and you reach out to, the higher chances you have of people coming back to you and helping you out. Ultimately, the goal you have is you need a job referral. At minimum, they can tell you about the company, they can tell you about the team culture. They could refer you internally through their position. Depending on how much of an advocate they are, they may actually be able to reach out to the hiring manager of that team. That's almost a step further, right? And so I have a family member, right? If that person's at a certain company that I'm interested in, that person would go out of the way, try to find that hiring manager. If it's not a family member, it's someone that I may have a friend with that he may not want to go out the way, but he could at least give me that job referral. So really, it's just the relations you build with these people. The rule of thumb is to try to find something you have in common with that person. It could be you have a mutual friend, right? So if you're a second degree connection, but hey, we both know this person, love to connect. You can get that second degree connection to make that introduction, right? You can also, if y'all went to the same school, right? Same alumni. That hey, we both graduated from Texas A&M. I would love to connect with you. Or we went to the same undergrad. or hey, I see that we're both based in the same Derasser, or whatever commonality it could be, right? That hey, we're in the same organization or the club. It can even be organization that we both worked at a past company together. You can use that. So whatever commonality you can find, that would be the initial start of building a connection that won't just fizzle out. If you message a random person that you have no common features with, chances are they may not respond. They might reject your connection request. There's no reason for them, right? But if there's something that y'all have in common, they're more likely to accept that conversation, and then you can kind of build a communication from there.
Great answer, Sunny. Thanks. To a question that was asked about how to reach out to YJP, we have our co-chair from YJP, Manan Jain, and he has posted our website and the link tree. So feel free to go through those links so that you can connect us through different mediums. Sunny, one other question, and I think quite a few people were interested to know what your take on this is. Do recruiters, here currently in the US, would they consider work experience from India, and how much impact it would be? Because sure, you've worked, but since it's in a different country and things might be perceived differently, what would the impact be, and how the recruiters would consider your work experience?
Absolutely. So they will consider experience from India. So if you worked at a company in India, they would absolutely, consider that. A few things that you could consider if it seems like all your experiences in India and you just moved to US and you're trying to apply for a US job, there's gonna be certain, I don't want to say stigmas, there's gonna be certain things that they may associate with it. And so if there's anything you can do to break that, that would help. And so, for example, if you're coming from India, you want to include a US city and address on your resume. Let them know that you're a local candidate, that you're not applying from India, that you're applying from Dallas, Texas for this job, right? So make sure you emphasize that. If you are a US citizen, of course, when you apply, it will, they'll see, it won't be filtered out that you're a US citizen. But I know I've actually heard this trick. I don't know if this helps or not, but I've heard that people actually will write US citizen on their resume in like very small font. So it's kind of like kind of tricking the system, right? Don't know if that helps or not, but definitely worth giving a try. So you can add it kind of like in white font, make it very tiny, write US citizen. But I wouldn't be discouraged if you have experience in India. There's a lot of people that like worked at large companies in India. Definitely use that to your advantage, and wherever you can, show that you're a local candidate, and that would kind of be good for you.
Thanks, Sunny. Dia has a question about joining, how to become a member of JENA. So Dia, Ananya has posted a couple of links up top, which is for YJP. And for the JENA convention that's happening next year, the registration links have been sent out, but feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure you get the registration link to sign up for the JENA convention and to become part of JENA. I do not see any other questions coming in. We did plan the session for 45 minutes, but it seems like there were a lot of great questions and a lot of people stuck around. So we are thankful for that. We have another question. Okay, hopefully the last one. Since international students have 3 years of legal rights to work here, so is it advisable to answer no to sponsorship questions as of now?
I'll admit I don't have the answer to that. But if there's anyone that is in the room that does have experience, feel free to write it in the chat. I think that is a important topic. And I would actually just add one thing, that we do have groups within our I would say our global Jain community. And that is like, facilitated by YJP for particular questions like this. And so if you need support, we have like a visa support group. We have people that are international, and of course, a lot of us go through these challenges. So, feel free to like reach out to peers when it comes to questions like this. But those resources do exist.
Perfect.
Annie, what was the question that you were asking people to type into the chat if they had experience with?
Manan, if you're able to repeat.
Yeah, so there was a question about if, for international students, they have 3 years of legal right to work here. So is it advisable to answer no to sponsorship questions as of now? So Bhavit, I believe it depends on the question that the employer is asking you. For the 3 years, you don't need sponsorship. you can work on the F1 visa as a student up to 3 years. So when you do interview with them and they ask you, would you need sponsorship in the future? At that time, it is best to be truthful and say yes, because one way or the other, eventually they would find out. So if so, I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to reach out to me. I also am an international candidate here in the US. So I've been through what you might be going through, and I can help you out on that. All right, one last question, and then we probably will wrap up. Ananya, let me unmute you so that you can ask your question or make a comment. Yeah, now you should be unmuted.
Hey, no, I was not asking a question. I just wanted to help answer the other question about the visa and how to handle it. So what I do, and I don't know what is right or wrong, I'm just sharing what I do and what I used to do at least, is I would answer on the form that I do not need immediate sponsorship. And that is kind of a partially true statement, because if I am on OPT or I'm on a visa or whatever, which is work allowing me to work at that particular moment, I don't need a sponsorship. I would answer it with a no. But then when I would have my one-on-one with HR or with the first hiring manager, that is when I would make it very clear that I would require a sponsorship. The reason was mostly to kind of let them see my face, let them see my skill set once face to face or in a virtual meeting, and then let them decide whether that is a deal breaker for them or not. But it's always good, as Manan said, to address that as early in the process possible, because sometimes you would go until the very end and then that would be a deal breaker for the company, and you don't want to be in that situation.
Thank you, Ananya, for chiming in. One last question that we have on the chat. After that, I'm sorry we won't be able to keep taking on questions, but feel free to reach out to us and we will certainly respond back to you. So the last question for today is, in some applications, I came across question to opt out to scan resume by AI. So shall I opt out to increase my chance to be noticed?
Yeah, I saw that actually. Really interesting. I've actually have not come across that before. And so what I would say is, if you are using AI to build your resume, you can run your resume through AI and see what jobs does this resume suitable for? And if it looks like your resume is suitable for the role you're looking for, then maybe it's worth putting it in. But I'm actually not aware. I've never seen that before, so I can't give
Yeah, I've
any
never seen that
advice on
before
that.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since you folks looked for a role, or maybe in that industry it was not that. Yeah, as in Dia, if you do find out, and we ever do happen to get back in touch, do let us know what your experience was. It'll be nice for us to learn something from you folks as well. And Bhavit is saying it's trending now due to higher number of applicants. Very interesting.
That's
So
fascinating.
we will try our best and ask around in our board and the wonderful YJP community that we have, and we will try to answer that question. So feel free to reach out to us, and we will share the recording for sure. We've covered good quality material with some great questions, so we will share the recording. I believe this is where we wrap up. So Sunny, thank you once again. I think it was a great session. Wonderful points that you brought up, and a lot of people are asking for your resume and also the recording. So that certainly shows that the session was phenomenal. So thank you for being with us. And to everybody else, thank you so much for attending this session and asking some amazing questions. We will share the recording with you, and I have already received quite a few responses on the Google form to get feedback. So we will be in touch and we will share the feedback with you once we've reviewed your resumes. I think that's about it. Thank you everyone, and have a good evening. Jai Jinendra.
Thank you, Jay Janindra.